Hey guys, today we're going to talk about different ways that you can charge your mouthfill. Now before we start talking about these different methods, I do want to say that none of these methods are necessarily better than the others. They're just different ways to get air into your mouth so you can perform your mouthfill. Now the goal is going to be able to get the air from your lungs into your mouth with the least amount of effort possible, leaving you feeling comfortable to start your free fall and to start using your mouthfill. Often it is the taking of the mouthfill, the process of filling your mouth up with air, that makes the beginning of that free fall so stressful, or that can make someone swallow their mouthfill straight away. So paying attention to how you actually charge your mouthfill is super important. Really quick, it's also important to know that the larger the mouthfill that you take, the more air that you try to pack into your mouth, the harder it's going to be to hold that mouthfill. So usually in the beginning, when we're diving to maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 meters, it's better to actually take smaller mouthfills and manage them correctly, as opposed to just taking a huge mouthfill and then losing a little bit straight away and then struggling to hold that pressure on the vocal fold all the way down. Keeping in mind the vocal fold, or the muscle group that separates your oral cavity from your thoracic cavity, is incredibly weak when we're talking about all the different muscles and parts involved with equalization, all the different forces. The vocal fold is incredibly weak, and so air can easily slip past it back down to the lungs, which is why how we charge our mouthfill is so important. So we know from watching the previous mouthfill videos that the humming that we do, that we do when we charge our mouthfill, is because when we hum, our vocal cords and our vocal fold are very close to one another, and that's why they're vibrating. So that when we finish charging our mouthfill, when we finish putting the air into our mouths, all we have to do is go bang and pop them shut, and we won't lose any air out of our mouths, as opposed to if we were to just open up our throat and push air straight through. By the time we then closed our throat, we would lose a big chunk down out of our mouth. So we're trying to do this with a lot of control. So we only make the opening as small as we can to push the air into our mouths. And that's what I mean when I'm saying charges here. M charge, dual charge, reverse pack and charge. Every time I wrote charge, I'm talking about the vibrating or humming air up into the mouth. So the N charge and the M charge is the method of filling the mouth that I spoke about in the Foundations of Mouthfill video. Just to recap, when I hum the letter N, my tongue goes into a T position, or roughly a T position, and I vibrate air into my nasal cavity. When I hum the letter M, my tongue goes in a relaxed neutral position, and I'm vibrating the air into my mouth. And so when we do an N charge followed by an M charge, we are first filling up the nasal cavity with as much air as it can handle. The reason why we do the nasal cavity first is because we need to equalize the ears, and the opening to the ears is in the back of the nasal cavity. So we do the N charge, we fill up the nasal cavity, and then we put air into the cheeks in front of the tongue. And together, that's the entire airway in the head. Together, that's as much air as we can fit in our mouth, in our airways in general. Now, some people are not comfortable with this. Some people like to do what's called a dual charge. And a dual charge is when you charge both of these cavities at the same time. So it's when you do an N charge and an M charge at the same time and fill up the entire airspace all at once. The way that we learn how to do this is first by working out how to exhale out the nose and the mouth at the same time. What you're going to do is you're going to get your fingers, and you can put your thumb just in front of your lips, and you can put your trigger finger just under your nose, and you're going to try to exhale out at the same time, and you should feel the air going on both of those fingers. Play with this exercise for a little bit to try to get a flow, to try to make sure you can easily and on command exhale out of the nose and the mouth at the same time. Then once you can do that, start to charge a mouthful at the same time. when we're practicing with mouthfill charges, it's best to just do it really slow, like to charge the mouthfill really slow. You would never do that on a dive. On a dive, you do it faster. But with everything in freediving equalization, when we're doing exercises, the slower you do it, the more control you develop. So this is the dual charge again. You can see that my throat drops in every case when I fill up my mouthfill, because I allow the back of my tongue to drop, I allow my vocal fold and my throat to go down to make even more room at the bottom. If you're not doing that straight away, don't worry, you'll develop that in time. So that's the dual charge. Now, a lot of people like that because it's a bit faster than the N and the M charge. You do it all at once, you do it all together, and bang, there's your mouthfill. The next one is actually not really taking a mouthfill, or not taking a whole mouthfill at any given time. So in these first two charges, this N and M charge and this dual charge, we were frenzeling down to whatever the depth we're going to take our mouthfill. Usually 15 to 25 meters, depending on what depth you're diving. So you frenzel down, frenzel down, frenzel down, frenzel down, and then you get to that depth where you're about to free fall, and you take your mouthfill, you charge it, then you relax, free fall, throat's already closed off, and you just mouthfill for the rest of your dive. Now with this next one, the constant top-ups, it's a bit of a different procedure because we're not frenzeling and then charging. We're charging from the beginning. Now this is something that I personally like to do, and if you've ever seen videos of me freediving in a competition or doing a deep dive, you'll notice that from the first meters, I've got air into my cheeks. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing constant charges. As I'm going down, I've got a nose clip on, so I'll probably, if it's free immersion, I'll just be pulling, or if I'm going down constant weight or no fins, got my arms above my head, or I'm swimming, right? And then what I'm doing is constantly, every 3 to 5 meters, I charge my mouthfill again. Now the reason why this is helpful, the reason why I like to do this, is because I'm not getting down to sort of 20 odd meters where my lung capacity is only 1/3 of its volume, and then taking a huge chunk of that air and going up into my mouth. I'm filling it up slowly, 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 slowly. So it's a bit of a gentler procedure. And then I have an alarm for where I stop filling up, or I have my final top-up depth. So if we're diving to around 40, 50, 60 meters, we may want to be just taking our mouthfill at about 15 meters, which means what you can do with this one is you put your alarm at 15 meters, and when you hear that alarm, you do your final charge, and then roll on for the rest of the way. So I'll show you a little bit about the mathematics involved in this. On average, a freediver can push about 400 to 450 mils of air into their mouth for a mouthfill. So 400 mils of air. Now, the average adult male, we always work with adult male figures because they're easier to divide and do mathematics with. So the average adult male has a 6-liter lung capacity at the surface, and when they go down to 20 odd meters, which is where I'm taking my mouthfill, they will have a 2-liter lung capacity. Now at the surface, it's not a problem to take 400 mils away from 6 liters, but if my lung capacity is only 2 liters, my lung capacity is only 2 liters of air in there, and then I, in an instant, bang, take 400 to 450 mils of that and push it into my mouth, you can see how that could be a bit more of a stressful process than if I were to go down topping it up slowly, slowly. Because I'm taking almost 1/4 of the air in my lungs and going boom into my mouth. So it can be stressful, it can be hard. Some people might feel like it's hard to relax after they take a big mouthfill like this. Now if I start my mouthfill from the surface and I'm just topping up, topping up, topping up, topping up, by the time I get to 20 meters when my lung capacity is about 2 liters, I'm only having to put maybe 50 more mils, maybe 100 more mils into my mouth. Now in total, I've put the same amount of air into my mouth. With both methods, I've put the same amount of air into my mouth when I get to the point where I stop taking it. But it's about the process of putting the air into my mouth. With one, I've done it slowly, 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 slowly to reduce stress. And with the other, I've gone boom and put it all in. Now just keep in mind, doing constant top-ups requires a bit more control. And this is why we don't get divers to begin with this method of filling their mouths with air when they're first learning how to mouthfill. But I find it to be a lot more relaxing. Now the last one that we have on the board is called the reverse pack and charge. And this is exactly what it sounds like. So you're cruising down, we're doing frenzel, we're doing frenzel, we're doing frenzel. I hear my 15-meter alarm. And instead of pushing a whole chunk of air into my mouth, I do a reverse pack, and get the majority of the air into my mouth with like doing a big reverse pack. So not using my respiratory muscles, but sucking it up with my mouth. And then I push the rest in to make it full. And it will look like this. So you can see I got about maybe 2/3 of the air already into my mouth by doing a reverse pack, which meant I only had to push another 150 or so mils of air into my mouth. And once again, it's a gentler process than putting, bang, 400 mils of air into your mouth. So these two are kind of similar in their concept in terms of they both want to put increments of air into your mouth. There's just two different methods of doing it. One is with constant charges, constant pushing with the abdominals, pushing air into the mouth. And the other is a reverse pack, so not using the abdominals, and then pushing with the abdominals, pushing the last bit of air into the mouth. Now these are the four main ways that a diver will charge their mouthfill. The only other variation I want to talk about now is when divers tip their chins back. And you may have seen some divers, they do this and they go, oh, and they like push a lot of air into their mouths. Now remember in the beginning when I said that the bigger the mouthfill you take, the harder it's going to be to hold. So I find this to be an incredibly stressful process. I don't do it myself. I don't recommend that you do it. You can do it with any one of these different charging methods. So what I'm talking about is that you'll do your normal mouthfill, but as you do your mouthfill, you lift your chin up, making the airspace here a bit bigger so you can push even more air in there. The issue with this is you've got so much packed air in there that it's really hard to hold in the throat. And just so many divers just lose their mouthfill. So many divers go, whoop, it goes straight back down. So if you are comfortable with that method, I mean, keep using it. I personally don't recommend it. And all of the deepest freedivers that I know do not use that method. So I feel like that method is actually a crutch for when people haven't developed the ability to truly manage and master their mouthfill, and they just want to pack extra bits of air in there. But you can go to 130 meters without packing air into your mouth like this, and divers have demonstrated that. So 4 different ways to charge your mouthfill. I recommend that you play around and see what feels most comfortable for you. Keep in mind that with everything to do with mouthfill, if you change one thing, you will require quite a bit of diving to get used to the new thing. So if you feel like one of these techniques is more aligned to you, or you like the sound of them, make sure that you give it a go over at least 3 to 5 dive sessions. Otherwise, you're not really going to have the time to work out if the technique is actually superior for you, or if you're able to use the technique.